All right, kia ora, everyone. It's Nathan Rose and Patrick Pickworth here in beautiful Auckland, New Zealand. Kia ora, Patrick. How's it going?
Kia ora, Nathan. All good. And yourself?
Yeah, doing well, thanks. So we're from Olympic 33, and we are going to show you the demo that Patrick built and we showed at the New Zealand Business Applications Summit Friday last week. So Patrick has built a demo extending Copilot with Semantic Kernel. Now, we've shared a few LinkedIn posts over the last few days explaining what Semantic Kernel is and why you might want to swap one LLM for another. And in this video, we're going to show you Copilot Studio working with Semantic Kernel. Before we do that, I'm just going to quickly go ahead and share my screen and just give you a view of what we're going to show you. Okay, so you can see here we have a badly drawn architectural diagram of the elements in our demo. So in the middle here, we've got Semantic Kernel, which is bridging that gap between pro code and low code. Patrick used an Azure function with C# to invoke Semantic Kernel. And to the left here, we've got the various LLMs that you can hook up to via Semantic Kernel. In this case, we went with OpenAI, and a bit more on that later, but you can use Llama, Mistral, Gemini, Claude, all of those very easily with Semantic Kernel. And then to the right, you've got the familiar elements in the Power Platform, things that those of us in BizApps world know and love: Power Automate, Dataverse, Copilot Studio, and we're using Dynamics 365 Sales as the base for our demo. So the Contoso coffee products in our demo. All right, so how does it work? Well, it starts out with the user entering a prompt into Copilot Studio. So they're going to say something like, I'd like to buy some coffee machines. And what we're going to do is we're going to call Power Automate to invoke our Azure function. Now, we did this because when we created the demo, the actions in Copilot Studio didn't support custom connectors. We just checked and that's just been lit up. So it's a fast moving space. So in a perfect world, you'd use a custom connector in an action, but in a pinch, Power Automate is a perfectly good workaround. So Power Automate is going to call our Azure function, which is going to start interacting with Semantic Kernel. And what Semantic Kernel is going to do when it's called is the first thing it's going to do is list all the things that Patrick programmed it to do, and then it's going to start talking to our LLM. So it's going to talk to OpenAI. Now, the reason we used OpenAI, even though that is the same LLM that Copilot Studio uses, is when we tried this with Mistral, we had some difficulties with chaining functions together. And so in the interest of having a working demo, we went with OpenAI. The cool thing, though, is that Patrick was able to switch that out in seconds, and he's going to show you that shortly. So Semantic Kernel is going to send the prompt that we put into Copilot. So I'd like a list of coffee machines along with all the functions that Patrick has programmed into it to the LLM. It's going to process that to determine what it needs to do. So what functions need to be run and in which order. Once that's done, Semantic Kernel is going to start calling the functions Patrick has trained it to do. So in this case, we're going to query Dataverse for a list of products. And now we need to send that back to the user. So we're simply going to reply via the same flow that we called when we prompted it, and we're going to return this list of products to the user in the chat. The next thing we need to do is now we need to generate a quote. So Copilot's going to ask if you'd like to generate a quote. And again, Semantic Kernel is going to call Power Automate. So we've created this function in Power Automate to generate our quote. So we do that by first creating the opportunity with the opportunity products and then calling an unbound action to generate the quote. Now, you could do this a number of different ways. I wanted this to be as low code as possible, so we went with Power Automate, but you could use a plugin, you could use an Azure function or a Logic app, really whatever automation best suits your requirements. Once we've generated that quote, we're simply going to return the URL to it to the user in chat. So this is the demo that Patrick's going to walk you through. So Patrick, I'm going to turn it over to you now. And why don't you show people this incredible demo that you've created?
Awesome. Thanks so much, Nathan. All right, cool. Um, I'm sharing my screen now, and hopefully that's coming through loud and clear.
Yep, absolutely perfect.
Fantastic. Cool. So, for those that haven't seen this before, this is Copilot Studio. This is a really cool place where you can um, create your Copilot to kind of give it the arms and legs it needs to provide information as well as action so it can do things for you. So for this demo, I'm going to pose as a really big coffee aficionado that just came into a windfall of cash. So I'm going to say something like, "Hi there, I'm a very rich barista looking to buy coffee machines."
And a very nice gift for Nathan since you are so loaded.
Absolutely. All right. What information would you like to know about the coffee machines or the number of coffees a machine can make? Well,
Yeah,
I'm going to go ahead.
throughput's important, especially when you need caffeine.
It is our lifeblood after all. All right, I'm
Yeah,
going to say we need 1 to 5 coffee machines that can make about 100 coffees an hour each. Let's
nice.
see what it comes back with.
All right, cross our fingers and toes.
All right,
All right.
fantastic. Cool. So here are the available coffee machines that can make 100 coffees per hour. So we've got a range of coffee machines available to us um, for an expensive price tag at that. I'm going to go ahead
Yeah.
and say let's get 1 times the Cafe Grande, and let's proceed with the quote.
All right, Mr. Big Spender.
All right, cool. So what should be happening in the background now is our Copilot is going to be calling its actions that it knows, oh, I know how to generate a quote. This is then going to call our Power Automate, and
And there we
our,
go.
and our Power Automate is going to call Semantic Kernel, and it's going to then think about what actions Semantic Kernel knows,
Yep,
and one of them being a quote generator,
yep.
or generate a quote. Now it's come back, as you can see here, with a link. We can go ahead and click that link, and what we should get is a quote in Dynamics 365, which we have. All right, cool. I've zoomed out a little bit here just to try and make it a little bit easier to see, but we've
And
got
it
a
is the
Cafe
Cafe
Grande,
Grande.
yeah, for
Yep,
our price and a quantity of
yep.
one, all generated
You
for
are a
us.
rich barista. Wow.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Let's mix it up a bit, Patrick. Let's throw some curveballs at it. Let's try to get a few different products with some different quantities and see how it reacts.
Sure thing. All right, so for this scenario here, what I've done is I've used a mixture of different language, as we normally do in real life, you know. A couple
Yep.
of these, one of those, and maybe 4 of these.
Yep.
Let's see how it reacts.
Let's see how it does. All right. Cross our fingers and toes, everyone.
Absolutely.
All right. So it's thinking about it.
Absolutely. With these LLMs, they're really good at rationalizing things like, you know, common language for what you would
Yep.
describe numbers with. So we're expecting a great result, and it
Yep.
looks like we've got it.
It did
So
it.
I
All
asked for a
right.
couple Cafe Grandes, an AirPod XL, and 4 AirPods, and it
AirPods. All
looks
right.
like it says
Let's
we've got
see.
it. So let's
Let's
go
see
ahead
how
and
it
check.
did. Yep.
All right, cool.
That.
So this is an asynchronous task. So
Yep.
it
There we
takes a little
go.
bit of time to load,
AirPod just dropped in.
and absolutely here. So we can see we've
Yeah.
got 1 AirPod XL, we've got
Nice.
4 of the AirPods, and 2 of the
Nice.
Cafe Grandes, all listed
Yep.
as we expect.
That is fantastic. So that is a demo of Semantic Kernel being called from Copilot Studio to generate a quote in Dynamics 365. So let's go behind the scenes now, Patrick. Let's show people what's going on in the cloud flows. Let's show them the Azure function and some of the code involved.
Okay, absolutely. Cool. So the way the magic kind of happens here with Copilot is we've fed it a couple of actions it can do. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into one of these here. Um, let's query our inventory. So if we jump into here, what we're going to see is an action name, a display name, and a description we can give it. These
Yep.
are all really to help our AI kind of be guided on the right direction when, you know, they're asked like these requests. Oh, I know how to use that action because that
Yep.
is this action name, and here's a description. So it really helps it along. And what
Yep.
this one is doing in this case is it's calling a Power Automate workflow. So we can go ahead and jump into that and have a bit of a closer look.
Yep.
We can see we've been doing a lot of testing in this. But
Yep.
the really cool thing is if we jump into here, we can see the first step and the last step are generated by Copilot itself.
Yep, binding it to the Copilot. Yep.
Exactly. Yep. So all I've gone ahead and done is provided a parameter called intent, which is just passing the message that the user puts in
Yep. So
effectively
just
down
our
the track.
prompt. Yep.
Exactly. And then what we have here is some magic behind the scenes. This is our function that we've deployed, and we're passing that intent in as a query parameter on the end.
Yep.
So
Nice.
effectively, we're saying, delegate this this action to our semantic kernel that lives in the cloud somewhere.
Yep.
And at the end, when we're responding to Copilot, we're actually passing the message that we get back from our other AI down. So it's effectively like two brains being better than one in this scenario, passing those messages back and forth.
Very, very cool. And again, we use the HTTP connector in Power Automate because at the time we created this, custom connectors weren't available. But if you check now, they are available in Actions in Copilot Studio. So this is a fast-moving space. This demo could be completely different by the end of next week.
Absolutely.
Yep.
AI doesn't slow down, that's for
Yep.
sure.
Yeah.
All right, groovy. The next thing I want to bring up is just some code that we wrote for this. This is effectively behind the scenes, what's hosted in the cloud, our function. So as Nathan alluded to earlier, it's really, really easy to change out the AI that we're using in this case here. And as things move as quick as they are, more AIs are coming online, which give you different advantages based on the models you kind of pick. At first, we were using Mistral, and we're able to get function calling working. But I think there were some issues with the model we were using. It was a little bit small, which meant we had some issues chaining functions together. You could obviously deploy a different version of Mistral and you may have better results. But as Nathan was saying, to make sure this demo would work, we fell back to OpenAI. But it gave us a great opportunity just to show you how easy it is to swap between these models.
Literally model endpoint API key and you're done. That's how easy it is. Even I can do it, and I'm a functional by trade.
That's why low code and pro code work so well together,
Beautiful
So,
thing, man.
Absolutely. So here we've just got add Azure OpenAI chat completion, and below here we have add Mistral chat completion. Those are the two things we really need to switch. Other than that, these are just your environmental variables. You don't need to think about this too much. The other thing we have listed here is, if we scroll down, we have here our prompt execution settings. These are slightly different between Azure OpenAI and Mistral. They just have two different objects you need to worry about. And for those that, this may be the first time you're looking at code, when we have these two slashes just on the side here on the text to screen, this is just commented out text, so the code actually isn't being run here. This is just us saying, hey, don't worry about it.
Pro coders, he said that for my benefit. Low coders, listen to Patrick.
But all good. The other really cool thing that people might get a kick out of is the plugin. So the plugin is really us giving extra arms to this whole solution. In our case here, we're giving them kernel functions. So the way this works is we define something called a plugin, and from there we specify the actions we want this plugin to be able to do. So in our case here, we get
So
products.
when we say plugin, we mean business logic, right?
Yeah, I think that's a good way to look at it.
Yep.
So effectively, we're declaring, here's what the AI can do. To cut a long story short, so we've got get products and we've got generate quote. Not too much else is really going on. These are the two functions that we wrote to make this whole demo come together.
But you could have added many more if you wanted to.
Oh yeah, as far as I know, the world's your oyster. You can add as many as you like and get it to do as many things as you like. But for this demo, we only needed two. It was really nice and easy.
Boss told us thin slices, and we complied.
Absolutely.
Yep.
For anyone else's benefit that wants to know a little bit more about the prompt behind the scenes for Semantic Kernel, this is literally it. We just told it, you have the ability to retrieve products, generate quotes, and do some nice error handling if anything were to go wrong.
Nice.
And that's it. Yeah.
I like it. All right. Yeah, so I guess the last thing we need to show is the flow that's getting called to actually do the heavy lifting once Semantic Kernel's worked out
Oh, sure.
what they want to buy.
All right, cool. So I'm going to just dart across here and we're going to jump into quote generation workflow. So I come from a pro coder land personally, but I've got the amazing Nathan here with me, and he helped me through this low code process.
I'm bringing him
And
over. I'm bringing him
abs-
over.
absolutely. So basically, what we have defined here is a manual trigger. So this
Yep.
is basically an HTTP endpoint that our
Yep.
our semantic kernel can call.
Yep.
And from there, it'll pass information like the products that we have, the customer name, and it will conform this into like an object that things like Dataverse can understand.
Nice.
So we use that to first generate our opportunity, and then we go through our list of products that we're sending it to add those products to our opportunity.
Yep.
After which we'll actually generate the quote from that opportunity,
Yep.
and return the ID from the quote that we've generated
Yep.
into the response from this flow. And that's what
Nice.
eventually gets fed all the way back up to Copilot.
Nice to construct the URL to click on.
Absolutely.
Very cool, Patrick. So we've basically taken a process that could be quite time consuming in Dynamics 365 sales, creating a quote, adding the creating the opportunity, adding the opportunity products, and then having to go generate that quote. We've literally reduced it to a few lines in a prompt using Semantic Kernel. So that is just an example of how your copilots can now become endlessly extensible with this very cool SDK from Microsoft called Semantic Kernel. So, anything else you want to cover off, Patrick, before we sign off?
Yeah, sure. Well, as you said, the space is moving really fast. There's all this active work that's still happening on Semantic Kernel. Some cool stuff that I've found recently is there's some work around Llama for function calling. So the Llama application supports function calling already. Semantic Kernel's adding that layer in as well. So
Interesting.
watch the space as you'll be able to launch some models locally on your machine and use Semantic Kernel to call functions through the Llama connector as well. Watch the space.
Very, very cool. Awesome. All right. Well, I think we'll leave it there. Thank you all so much for watching. I usually end these by saying, go do something awesome on the Power Platform today, but I think we just did. So, everybody watching, go do something awesome on the Power Platform today. Patrick, thanks so much for building it. This was an epic demo, mate. And we will talk to you all soon.
Cheers. Thank you.
Bye.